Dang, I don't know what's going on with the sound. I want to let you guys all know I was saying welcome to each and every single one of you. So yeah, my bad. Did not realize the sound was off. I was telling you guys, let me know um, if you guys want to talk about meme coins first, or do you want to talk about GameStop first? I'll just pull like the first 10 comments from now. So if like the first 10 comments, like the first 7 out of 10 want to talk about GameStop first, we'll do that. If it's meme coins, we'll do that. GME first, GME, that's 2. GME, 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 that's 5. All right, GME first. Okay. So, okay. All right, guys, I get it. We want to talk about GME. I also want to talk about GME. So, let's get right into it. So, first of all, I just want to say, I do feel terrible for like the people that were using my tweets as like a reason to YOLO shorter dated calls and are now really mad at me that they lost on it. But like I need you guys to understand that whenever I enter a trade, I always have an invalidation on it. And like for this specific trade, my invalidation was the daily trigger here. So once price lost the daily trigger, like that was my invalidation for shorter term options. If you're playing around with shorter term options, it's so important to have like a good invalidation level. Otherwise you can really get burned and nobody wants that. So just something good for the future. Like, again, I haven't been public on Twitter or on YouTube about any options plays over the past 2 months or even 4 months since I started the meltup live streams way back here, waiting for that bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover to kick things off. There's a reason why I didn't do it, and it's because I didn't want anyone coming after me if their options plays didn't work out. Now, I had a time frame for around December 20th, and like 5 days before, 5 days after. That's what I said. Like that's when I thought that things might take off. And we kind of did get like that RK tweet with the box, and price did start to explode to 34, but got knocked right back down. But yeah, like once this area passed, like okay, like I was wrong about the timing. Like I moved on. I wasn't like calling for anything to happen. Like when things went down, like that was just the overwhelming tin on Twitter about like the RK19 time tweet and like whatever. Greg, like that didn't have much to do with me. Like all the people that, were hyped for this day, like I went along with it. Sure, like there was some good hype, some good tinfoil. GameStop said they're not going to dilute till February. Like everything made sense for the squeeze to happen here, I guess. But it didn't, and I had a plan for that, and I cut my position once price lost the key level. So moving on. Overall, meltup is obviously still well intact, and I'm really excited for this thing to bottom already so we could take off. Most anticipated bottom is anywhere like in this range. So sure, it can possibly dip a little bit lower than the weekly trigger, but like almost certainly we'll find a bottom in this range here and then make a much stronger push to the upside. So you can see back here in 2020 how the meltup got built. The launch pad for the meltup got built, and you could see this uptrend with many deep pullbacks along the way. Like, trust me, it was not easy sitting through all these big pullbacks. Even like here, it really looked like it was melting up, and then whoosh, right back down. And then here again, looked like a pure melt up, and then right back down. And then again, this looked crazy. Like this looked really legit for a melt up, and right back down. So at this point, I'm more so like if I'm playing options, I'm just gonna play the triggers and do it smartly and not listen to any tin. But overall, like this is totally still gonna melt up in my opinion. And pullbacks are a gift. Like you just want to time your buys well at big triggers, big areas. And I'm very confident this will continue pushing up over the long run. Looking for a bottom, like maybe in a week or two at the weekly trigger. Maybe it happens earlier. Who knows? Maybe there's a bullish catalyst. But overall, that's where I'd be probably looking to buy a bottom. And then I think this is going to launch to a new high. You could see here, each time there was like a big sell-off, price made a new high right after. And we're in the same environment where the monthly strong bullish in both. And so I don't think there's going to be any difference this time. Do you have concerns about the potential for RC to tokenize and have a company coin? Yeah, I mean, it's possible, and if that happens, I'd buy it as quickly as possible. And if it's going to do something crazy, then I'd make back any other losses on that coin. So, I mean, I'm not too worried about that. I don't think like that's something that's like a real concern. But either way, once GameStop is like the main talking point in the media, like I think everybody got a good lesson in how well the GME coins are going to do during the meltup from this Trump coin, because now everybody, all the GameStop holders that were like ripping on them and making fun of them this whole time, now is starting to realize that when something gets massive attention, the meme coins go crazy. Like Trump makes a meme coin and Trump is about to take office, obviously things are going to get really wild and explosive to the upside. So when GameStop is breaking 100, realistically, like, what do you think is going to happen? Of course, the meme coins are absolutely going to take off into the stratosphere, and that's the cold hard truth. Like, if you don't want to believe in it, like that's fine, but I think you have all the evidence in front of you this weekend. You can also see the massive pumps that these coins did during the May rally. And then you'll realize that when we have a pump that's going to stick and GameStop is going to start squeezing again and everybody in the world is going to be talking about GameStop, yeah, these coins will do insane numbers. Everybody feeling the FOMO about like missing out on the Trump coin, like same kind of event is going to happen once GameStop actually melts up. But yeah, basically I wanted to talk about how there's nothing bearish about this setup on the macro. We've had plenty of setups where stocks have retested their weekly triggers before actually exploding. BXT, yeah, I mean, if that's the case, like let's say GameStop would actually announce a coin, then I just jump into that one and make gains there. Like it's not such a big deal as long as you're active. Okay, so here we had this bullish crossover, and like you can see that Tesla had a really big pullback over here. Like again, things looked really good, and then pulled back down to the weekly trigger. Took a little bit to bottom. Like you could see, like it was sideways. Hourly trigger came down to price, pushed it down a little further, and then the explosion started, right? This was more than 130% move from the bottom. So GME pulling back to its weekly trigger here, really not a big deal at all in the macro sense of things. To me, it really just presents a good buying opportunity. You could take a look at Palantir as well, which had a superb melt up. And, you know, like here, shortly after the bullish trigger cross, you could see this this pullback down to the weekly trigger. And I'm sure like Palantir investors were very frustrated here. Like prices at 21, they had to undergo a big pullback to the tune of 28%, almost 29%. And then what happened right after? Sentiment was at its lowest point. Palantir investors were all mad at management and executives, and then boom, right? From the weekly trigger, it rips 420% to the upside, which is basically what I'm looking for GME. So there's no concerns here, guys. Like this is just a pullback to the weekly trigger. In fact, after major bullish crossovers, anybody in the Discord, anybody that's watched Trigger Lessons knows this, there's oftentimes a pullback before the real move begins. And this just looks like that pullback before the real move begins. So can't even show this in any more clear of a way here with Palantir. Like literally look what happens after its bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover. It pulls back to the weekly trigger and then starts a crazy strong uptrend for the better part of a year. For nearly a year, the stock has just been going vertical. And we were very bullish on Palantir back here because of the weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover. I was talking about it a lot in the Discord. I was getting very bullish on it. I gave the trade to everybody back at 16. I remember this very clearly. So now we have another gift here with GameStop pulling back to the weekly trigger. It just looks like an excellent buying opportunity to get ready for a year of just massive upside. Maybe more, maybe less, but almost definitely upside. So again, I see really no difference in these setups right here. Like really see no difference. This is exactly what it looks like to me. And I'm very excited for the bottom to be in because sentiment is piss poor right now, which is natural after a pullback like this. But what comes next, in my opinion, will be glorious. I'm extremely bullish. I totally think the meltup is going to happen. And right now it's just about being patient until I'm kind of confident there's a bottom, and then I'll look to buy some options again. Okay, and by the way, like there's plenty of other examples of stocks pulling back after bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossovers before actually taking off. Like even if you just look at SPY, so here's where it got its bullish crossover, and then after a nice little rally, it pulled back all the way to the monthly trigger before exploding. And look at this move, right? Let's take a look at NVIDIA. There's so many examples of this where stocks got their bullish crossovers, pulled back, and then just went on monumental rippers. And some people are just getting bearish at the worst times. Like here's the bullish crossover. It finally pulled back to its weekly trigger here. And then boom, right? So people are getting bearish at the very, very worst times, in my opinion. I think as price gets closer and closer to the weekly trigger, that's the time to be most bullish for the next push up. And if you guys want to give me other stocks, like we could take a look at any stock you want. If it's ever had a big move, it most likely came after a bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, pull back to the weekly trigger, and then explode. Now again, while price was in this uptrend, there was very good reason to think that the squeeze was right around the corner with RK tweeting again, with let's do AMD, sure. With RK tweeting again, with Ryan giving, with Ryan giving till Feb for the next dilution. So there was great reason to think the squeeze was coming here, but it didn't, and that's it. It's fine. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So here again, perfect example with AMD. Bullish crossover. Price makes a nice move after the bullish crossover, pulls back to the weekly or even the monthly trigger here. Then what happens right after? Face ripper to the upside. And you're going to see this in every stock because that's just how it works. That's just how it works. After these bullish crossovers, many times there's a pullback to the weekly or the monthly trigger before much more upside. So like there's no real reason to be worried here, in my opinion. I'm staying super bullish. I'm staying long, and I'll look for options trades when the triggers look like a bottom. Not going to go by any tinfoil theories anymore. Novo, we can take a look at too. Again, if any stock made moves like this, most probably what you're going to see is that same kind of trigger setup. This looks like a penny stock. Unless, did I type in the wrong thing? Probably did. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what this is. Nordisk. Yeah, I'm going to need like a stock that obviously made a melt-up move at some point. This is probably going to be a good one. So, wow. Talk about a melt-up. So here you go, right? Here's your bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover. Price pulls back for a bit, even goes below the monthly trigger for a bit. And then face ripper to the upside from $21 all the way up to $148. And people think this is impossible with GME. Like, come on, let's get real. This is exactly, in my opinion, what's going to happen with GME. Exactly. And I'll take a look at one more Maxin, but I'm pretty sure you guys are getting the point now. Right, this not really very good, but yeah, I mean, even here you could see weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, then a big spike to the upside, but this bearish crossover, that one really killed this stock. Every stock that makes a big move has bullish trigger crosses, but not every stock that has these trigger crosses make big moves. Like for sure, Core Jenkins, like that's a true statement of what you just said. There have been examples. The odds are overwhelmingly positive, and whenever GME itself in its history has had a bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, which has only been twice before, one here, and even on this one, I mean, here's your bullish crossover. This is the halving. Here's your bullish crossover, pull back to the weekly, monthly trigger, and then explode higher. This is exactly what the stock is doing here. And then its second ever bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, it melted up even faster. And now it's doing its third ever bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover. So who am I to assume that we won't get a very similar type move coming soon? Like that's just what I think is coming. I think in all probability, we get that kind of move next. again, this is all about a probabilities game, Core Jenkins. Like, you can't obviously foresee the future, but if a stock is repeating historical patterns that have been successful in bringing price higher, there's no real reason in my mind not to think that something like that can happen again. And we'll take a look at one more. Why not? So here we go. Here's your bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover. You had a little pullback towards the monthly trigger, and then price exploded 300% to the upside. And I'm not like feeding these guys tickers to give me. Like, these are all random tickers that I've never even heard of before, but you could see very similar structure in all these melt ups where you have a bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, a pullback to the weekly or the monthly trigger, followed by a ripper. And here it's coming again for GME. Bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, pull back to the weekly / monthly trigger, and then explode higher. Like, I think it's very basic, and I think that's most likely what's going to happen next. Affirm. So this is a newer stock, so it doesn't really have it yet, but same exact thing as GME, guys. Bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger. Look how similar these setups are, guys. These are called hyper bullish setups, setups that you want to be buying pullbacks, not freaking out at the pullbacks. So you have a bullish crossover, nice little upside move, price loses the daily trigger, sells back to the weekly trigger, and then once price gets through this daily trigger over here, it's going to explode higher and make an even bigger upside move. And again, I'm not feeding these tickers to anybody. These are all completely random. So Carvana, bullish weekly trigger, monthly trigger crossover, pull back to the weekly trigger, and then after that pull back to the weekly trigger, explodes 100% to the upside. Now it's pulling back to the weekly trigger again. Should you have gotten bearish because price was pulling back to the weekly trigger? Absolutely not. When price is pulling back to the weekly trigger and the weekly trigger is on top of the monthly trigger, which is exactly what GME has, this is where you want to be getting bullish. This is where you want to be looking to buy when price comes down to these major support levels where you know the algos are going to start dip buying. And then now that Carvana is back above its daily trigger, it's likely to start exploding to the upside again. It even got its bullish hourly trigger, daily trigger crossover here, and all the triggers are now long. So, like, right now, you're coming to a point where you could either make a huge mistake, in my opinion, and get bearish as price pulls down to a great support area between the monthly and the weekly trigger, which I just showed on a bunch of random stocks, has been optimal buying points before massive upside moves, or you can start getting super bearish here and give up because price is pulling back a little bit. Like, to me, that's really the two ways I see this right now. So which are you going to choose, Anon, right? You're going to get bearish because price is doing a very normal pullback that we've seen in hundreds of stocks before massive upside moves, or are you going to get super bullish as price nears the weekly trigger and give yourself a great chance to make a lot of money on the next upside push? I know what I'm doing. Of course, everybody is welcome to make their own choices. Okay, so I think that's probably enough about GME for now. I think I've shown why I'm bullish. I think there's validity to the reasons why I'm bullish, and that's it. So now, first of all, just going to quickly talk about GME and Ethereum. So there's no monthly trigger here, but there is hourly, daily, and weekly. And I mean, the chart looks overall pretty solid. This is at all-time highs right now, or near all-time highs, building like some kind of flag base here. Like, you know what I mean? So like, if it breaks out, you know, very possible you could see an extension of this move happen again. Yeah, it does look to be consolidating nicely. This is a very strong chart. Again, near all-time highs, so a little bit more risk. But I do think this is going to do insanely well once the media's attention and once the world's attention shift towards GME. Now, GME on ETH is a little more of an outlier. GME on Sol kind of just follows the general Solana general Solana market. So like I'll show you guys some other mid cap meme coins. So this is GME and Sol, right? And Mumu, I know he's in here right now. You'll see like all these mid cap meme coins pretty much look exactly the same. Triggers look the same. Setups look the same. Like you could see, these are pretty much the same price action. Like they both topped around here. Jamie got another pump because of the RK tweet, but they both topped around here and then have just getting beaten down. Bottoms are going to form soon on all these meme stocks. And here, like Michi as well is another, sorry, meme coins. Michi as well is another mid cap meme coin. And again, like very similar story. All these mid caps topped in November-ish. Again, Jamie had one more pump because of the RK tweet, but all these meme coins essentially topped here. And then now they got, after a long period of getting pushed down, very likely that some bottoms are going to form here and then move back up. So GME and Sol is very correlated to the overall Solana market. And that's why, like when you see things going down, is nothing to do really with GameStop right now, but much more to do so with the Sol market. And if the meme coin super cycle is about to kick off right now, which seems very likely with what just happened with the Trump coin, then you can bet your horse that all of these mid caps are about to explode higher. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to watch the daily trigger right here and the weekly trigger. And once price gets above both of these, that's when you're very likely to explode. Like if we see with Zin, which of course, as you guys know, I've been super bullish on. So I posted on Twitter that price was breaking above the weekly trigger. And that's like a hyper bullish scenario, because when meme coins especially break above their weekly triggers, there's a lot of emotion involved. And so that's usually like when we could see these big pumps occur. So for example, here I said, this was like the catalyst and then the actual price action. So the chart shows Zin breaking above the weekly trigger here, which in the past has led to gigantic pumps. So you could see it breaking above the weekly trigger right here. Price was 35 at the time, and I was showing how in the past breaking above the weekly trigger has really led to these huge spikes. And then sure enough, since 35 when I posted that, you could see this almost doubled since then. Well, like 60-80% already. So the triggers are great for these meme coins. They're definitely worth keeping an eye on, but it looks like all these mid-cap coins like Jamie and Sol, Michi, Mumu, etc. are all probably bottomed or going to bottom very soon. And I think the meme coin cycle is about to pick up big time, in which case we'd see all of these make massive upside moves. So I'm strong and bullish. And the reason why I like Jamie and Sol over these like dogs and cats and all the other meme coins is because it's going to stay relevant forever. Jamie is always going to have more pumps, as it's shown for the past 4 years. Some of these dog cats and some of these cat coins, some of these dog coins and some of these cat coins are just going to fall off eventually, just become culturally irrelevant. But the relevant coins are going to stick around forever and we'll always get new pumps. That's why I'm super bullish on GME, on Sol. Now, Jill, I'll just like take a really quick look at it if it's on here. Doesn't look like it's on here. All right. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. Just showing why my conviction is so strong that I believe Jamie is going to have another massive pump, and why this latest downside move like doesn't shake my conviction whatsoever. Not even a drop, not even at all. Still ultra bullish here. And like again, right now it's just about being patient for a bottom, not rushing anything if you're playing with options, and then times will be good again soon, guys. Like this isn't the end. There's no need to be heartbroken. There's no need to be devastated. If you played something super risky on shorter dated options and got hurt, like just if you want to be successful in the longer term, you learn lessons from what you did wrong. Treat it as an expensive tuition fee, because if you just catch the GME meltup with even a small call position, you're easily going to make back everything that you lost in this past trade. So always give yourself that chance to make back your losses. Never like blow yourself up completely. That's the worst thing you could do, because yeah, GME will pump again and it will be glorious. So Great question, KB. When it comes to trading, do the meme coins run off algos? No, they mostly run off human emotion. And that's why the triggers work so well. Okay, so what about correlations with BTC halvings and possible ETH Classic collateral? Great question, Mumu. I do want to keep that stuff in the Discord for now because I've learned that like talking publicly about dates when things can happen is only harmful to the masses. And so yeah, the ETH Classic connection is very strong. If you do some Grok research, is it Grok? 1 second. Yeah, it is Grok. So if you just do any research like on Grok about ETC and GME, just to give you like the hint here, like in terms of like correlation, you'll find something very interesting that can help you pinpoint like the next bottom and like when the next move could probably start. But that's not, again, like I think I learned my lesson about talking about like time frames and dates when things can happen. Like I'm just going to be super bullish and I'm just going to expect the next massive move to come anywhere between the weekly trigger and the monthly trigger. If it bottoms earlier, so be it. If it gets back above the daily trigger, we're fully bullish again. But overall, I'm expecting a bottom sometime here and then a big move up. And whenever that happens, that happens. I'll probably post like updates from time to time. So you know, like you guys see the prices. You guys see in previous examples where there's support going to be likely and what will probably happen next. Again, nothing is guaranteed in trading. That's why it's trading and not guaranteed money. But I know the next bet I'm going to take is definitely going to be somewhere off the weekly or the monthly trigger, and I'm expecting a massive upside move to occur afterward. How am I liking WIF? I like it a lot. I'm not going to say it's ready at the very, very, very moment. Yeah, I mean, what if RC Jamie bought into Trump? If there's some catalyst, then great. Here, so like look at WIF in comparison to Michi, Jamie, and so like they're all the same thing. They all topped around November. They all got bearish crossovers and have been getting sold every time they get near their daily triggers. Jamie and Sol is just another meme coin, guys. People think that gets super connected to GameStop and like moves off GameStop. It's not. It moves like every other meme coin. This is, you know, very, very similar trading, very similar tops right here in November, very similar downtrends. WIF is down from the highs. It's down 72%, and that's the biggest coin on Solana. This is the most famous coin on Solana. And GME is down 70%. Like all the meme coins in the Solana ecosystem are mostly down 70% or so from their highs. Like Mumu, if you guys are following the meme coin market, I'm sure you've heard the name Mumu before. Let's see how that's doing, right? So again, like 87% from the top, and then Michi, right? GME on Sol is just another meme coin. You shouldn't really like 85% down from the top. So if anything, GME and Sol did better than like some of the really big ones. And again, like the more than likely after what happened today with Trump, there's going to be huge moves in meme coins coming as liquidity comes into the market. And I'm bullish on literally everything right now. What's a good indication to know when the meme coin super cycle is coming to an end? So one of them is having someone like Gavin May on your team who's really, really great at giving top targets and stuff like that with Elliott waves. And another way is just watch the daily triggers. So like here, you could see WIF was holding the daily trigger, and once it lost the daily trigger, that's what started the next big downtrend. So if we get like another massive pump and WIF loses the daily trigger, that's your sign that the run could be over. But that could happen, you know, above $10. Like I most definitely see WIF going above 10. Once Trump is in office, RC can invest in crypto. Yeah, NFT marketplace will return, and GameStop can invest its $4.5 billion in stocks or crypto, including meme coins without threats. Exactly. Like so many good things are coming for GameStop. I'm telling you, I can't believe how bad sentiment got in the span of 1 week from one little pullback. Like in 2020, there was 30% pullbacks before the squeeze. If you thought this was going to be a walk in the park, I don't blame you because it sure looked like it was going to be. Again, with RK tweeting and RC kind of giving like the time frame for January by saying no dilution till February, but there's no difference. Like the move will still happen. I'm not going to give a time frame. I'm just going to say it's probably going to bottom somewhere around the weekly and the monthly trigger and then explode higher again, and that's that. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys all showing up. I know times have been hard, but times will get better. They always do. This is GameStop. It's not going anywhere besides up in the longer term now that the weekly trigger has crossed above the monthly trigger. So be patient. Time your dip buy as well. Not financial advice, of course. and I think everything will work out great in the end. Have a great weekend, guys. And if you like the stream, I would appreciate if you could give it a like on your way out. I appreciate all you, and have a great week.